Hey, good day, good afternoon, and wherever you are in the world. My name is Marcel Hyde, channel Marcel Mindset.
One, two, three, four.
I want to remind you guys, please hit that subscribe button below, hit that notification bell, because these are episodes that you don't want to miss out on. For those of you out there, if you're lacking in faith, you're lacking in hope, God is there for you. God is willing to guide you and lead you and direct you. Hello, world, and welcome to another episode of Marcel Mindset TV. Remember, guys, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button below, and if you find any type of value from these episodes that we deliver on a weekly basis, make sure you share it with someone that you think it could help them grow. So today on the show, you can already see that she is smiling. She's shining bright. She's doing amazing work. And she's got a big message for people out there. And they need to hear this message that she delivers on her Instagram page. Her name is Toks. And she has an amazing story that's going to transform your life. I saw her on Instagram. I started following her, and just hearing some of the things that she's saying on her YouTube and her Instagram is very impactful. And she's a female that I can guarantee on this show that she has an extremely bright future, and she's going to be a leader. I said it here, one of the leaders in the future in her space. So welcome to the show, Toks.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh, that was such a kind intro. I think one of the best ones ever. Thank you.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So we're going to have people that view this show here, and they, may not know you yet. So my question to you is, who is Toks? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yes. Okay. So hello, everybody. I'm Toks Ayinla. I am a strategist, speaker, and writer. I'd say my work primarily focuses on lifestyle and business. So when I say lifestyle, I'm talking about personal development, financial development, relationships, and all of the work I do in general focuses on mindset as the route to transformation. I think that everything that we want in life and everything that we are capable of accomplishing starts and ends with the way that we see ourselves, the world around us, and our opportunities. So I'm very big on using mindset and really starting there as we continue to expand, and I help people create the life that they want for themselves.
Yeah, that's great. And you're doing a great job of that. Like you said, mindset to the root is the root in life, is what you said. That's the key, is the mindset. And this is Mindset TV, and mindset is everything. So that something that you need to work on, Toks is available. When at the end of the show, we'll allow you to give all your streams or your platforms that people can kind of start following you on if they want to transform their mindset, because that's the beginning of everything. So, I know you have this massive story, and, debt is something that most people deal with, right? A lot of people have a lot of debt. A lot of people are dealing with it. A lot of people are struggling with their debt. And sometimes people have debt and they have no hope. They don't believe they're going to pay it off. They don't believe there's no way. They continuously struggle with their debt and they don't have a plan. So talk about debt, and what are some steps someone can take to pay off their debt?
Yeah, I have a big debt story. I went $30,000 into debt my first year of entrepreneurship, but luckily, thankfully, and strategically, I've been able to pay it off all completely last year in 2022.
Right.
I'd say that first thing you need to do is get honest with yourself. You need to pay attention to how much you're actually spending, not just what you think you're spending, but take a look at the month by month, the day by day, those little Starbucks stops that add up to an extra $50 spent in a week. And all that, I'd say that's very important, because you can't fix what you don't acknowledge, although that's the disgusting and scary part of it, right? Like really looking at it and saying, this is the monster that I've created.
Right.
And I also say nothing is too small to put in, because we often look at the grandiosity of our debt, and I'm like, how will I start? But like, start with $1. If all you have is $6 to put in this month or this week, put that in, and just get to the consistent habit of putting something in, no matter how small. And as your resources grow, and since you already have that habit in place, it's going to be easy for you to, instead of just putting $6, maybe in a month or so it's $60, and then the next time you have 600, you can dump it in, right? But just get into that habit and don't psych yourself out.
Right. Yeah, I like that. And you said get honest with yourself. And I think that's the key, is kind of being honest with yourself and being aware of where you're spending things. And if you're having a Starbucks every day, looking at that at the end of the week and be like, hey, I just spent $200 on Starbucks this week because I went and got the most expensive drink on the menu. You know, that's $200 you could use towards paying off your debt. So a lot of respect to you actually for paying off your debt. And you know, I want to stop and say a lot of respect as well for the whole entrepreneurship thing as well, because that's extremely tough. And I think a lot of people don't realize how tough it is to be an entrepreneur, and you're in that space. So, you know, I just want to ask you quickly, you know, away from the questions, like, how has that been, that experience of being an entrepreneur for yourself?
I'd say that it's been great. It's been fun and it's been fulfilling. I am not one of those entrepreneurs who says everybody needs to be their own boss. That's never going to be something I preach. It's not for everybody, because there's a level of discipline and faith involved in just waiting around saying, I believe in this, even though it's not manifesting yet the way I want it to. I'm willing to stick it out through the trenches to get to that place. I'm in that place now where all of that hard work has begun to pay off and reap fruit. But for the first 2 years, and especially because I quit in 2019 and then the pandemic started 2020. And as someone who does speaking, that the whole world kind of shut down. I'm happy. It was the decision I felt most convicted to make. And through the trenches and to the other side, I'm okay, I see why. And it aligns.
That's right. So like you said, like the trenches, like you went through a lot to get to where you are today. So for our audience out there, it's not an easy process. So someone like Toks who's doing that, it's someone you want to listen to if that's where you want to be, right? Toks is doing it. She's experiencing it. A lot of people talk about it, but they're not actually there and doing it on a daily basis. So, you know, follow Toks, listen to what she's saying, you know, and she'll help you transform your life and your mindset, most importantly. So what are some mindset shifts people can kind of make to go from broke to abundance?
I'm really big on affirmations. It's something really important to me. I actually have a journal, and at the beginning of every year, I create like a mantra filled with like 7 to 10 affirmations that I speak over myself. And I think it's important to start to speak about what you want as if it already exists, because our mind has a way of conspiring for us or against us. So if you believe something is impossible, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just like if you believe that is possible, you expand your mind, you know? So what do you want? What does it look like? What is it? Why is it worthy of the work it's going to take? You know? I think another part of your mindset is that sometimes we're blocked and limited by what we have available to us. But I think with the internet and just having access to podcasts and things like this, where if you know where you want to be, you can't see it. Pay attention to someone who's been there, learn from them, listen to them. And that expands your mind, because some people live in situations where they don't necessarily have access to see all of those things. But the internet is an endless expanse of information, right? So where do you want to be? See who's already there and glean from them, so that you open your mind and you learn about those things. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah. So there's people out there online that you can kind of follow and listen to. So if you're wanting to get on that path of, let's say, entrepreneurship, or you're wanting to be your own boss, or you want to be a business owner, there's people who are doing that, so you can listen to them and they can guide you and lead you on that direction. And I like how you say affirmations, you know, speaking those words, you know, almost into existence, you know, and believing it like you're already there. You know, that's a big part of it. You know, it's like seeing yourself there. So I really love how you touch on that, because that's so important. Don't miss that point right there. So go back and listen to what Toks is saying. So, you know, you talked about affirmation. So how important is goal setting, to you? And do you believe that, you have to set goals? Because some people think, what, I'm not going to set goals. I know what I want. I don't need to set goals. Or how important is it to set goals? And should you be writing your goals down?
Oh, 100% write your goals
Yeah.
down. I actually created, I'd say, a methodology. It's called the Root Work Strategic Goal Setting Technique.
Right.
And something that I created back in 2019, partially because when I was going through my turbulent times,
Yeah.
I noticed that there were certain steps that I took, if I really assessed it, that got
Right.
me to the other side. So I
Of course.
created this methodology, and it's pretty much broken up into 4 parts. So the
Right.
first part is the fruit, which are the goals that you have, your ambitions, and
Right.
all of that. Like at the end of the day, we want good fruit. All of the hard
Yep.
work, we want the fruit of our labor. But in order to get good fruit, you have to first do the root work. So the root work
Yes.
starts with the depth. So the
Right.
depth is your personal internal conviction about the
Yep.
possibility of achieving your fruit. Because everyone
Right.
can tell you about all of the potential you have, but until
Yeah.
you yourself believe in it and
True.
are willing to do what it takes, what is it worth? So once
Exactly.
you have that internal conviction, you're willing to put in the
Right.
work, you believe it's possible, then you do the breadth, which is all the external factors. So who
Yep.
are the people outside of yourself, the resources, the institutions that you need to
Right.
support this root, to make sure it's not just deep but wide? And then the fourth part is the nutrients, which is, yes, we have all of these things in place, but 3 months from now,
Right.
are we going to come back and look? And if it's not successful, is
That's
it not
true.
successful? We had the wrong fruit, our depth wasn't deep enough, or our breadth wasn't wide enough. So
Right.
this is really how I set all of my goals, and also how I work with my clients and do corporate and
Right.
personal strategy from
Yep.
this space, because you have
Right.
to actually know where you're going. Because a lot of people, I think, believe that they're failing because the goal was bad. But if
Right.
you were to look at it from this root work perspective, maybe
Right.
the goal wasn't bad. Maybe
True.
you were so excited about telling everybody about it, but
Right.
you need to actually do the work was what was missing. So maybe
That's
it's
right.
a depth, or maybe it's a breadth issue. But
Right.
it's easy to say you're going to do stuff, but life gets in our way. We get distracted. So when you actually create a tangible, strategic, long-lasting plan, it
Right.
makes it so much easier to track what you're doing and see where the
That's right.
success or the pitfalls are.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I love that concept. And it sounds like you got a system, you have a plan that people can kind of turn to, because you know what, if you just kind of go out there, if you have a goal, but there's no plan behind it, then how are you actually going to reach that goal? And, Toks is someone that you can kind of go to, who can help you, if you're trying to navigate or trying to figure out your plan, or you have questions, or you just need that system and structure in there. Toks can help you with that. And it really helps to hire a coach, to not only help you get to your goal, but also show you things that they've learned. And also there's things in the blind spot that you don't see that they can show you. So hire a coach. Her name is Toks.
I love it.
It just came to me, so I want to ask, we did talk about consuming content, and I love podcasts. This is my own podcast, and I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I've limited myself to the amount of podcasts I listen to, because I don't want to be the person just listening and not doing. So I want to ask you this question. How do you get out of just consuming content, consuming podcasts, reading books, and not act and get into producing and executing? Because we may get stuck in that consuming stage or state.
Yeah, one of my favorite, I'd say, online business coaches, Marie Forleo, actually said something that really resonated with me, and it's create before you consume. So
Right.
a lot of us have this issue of, I'm listening to every business and mindset podcast. I'm reading every single book on how to get rich, and
Right.
I'm hoarding all of this information that I'm not actually tangibly using.
Right.
And then because I have so much information, it gets you to a place where you have information overload. And now you're so overwhelmed because one person's telling you to go this way, the other person's saying go this way, and you're somewhere in the middle. So there's something to be said for creating before you consume. So right now I'm currently working on my second book. It's a poetry book. So because I'm writing again, and I'm in that writing space, I'm not reading a lot because I know that I'm going to get overwhelmed. And especially I'm not even going near poetry, because I do, those concepts might filter into my mind. And instead of just writing from my place, I might get these external influences that I don't even realize are going into my work. Right. Versus somebody else, and not even just somebody else. In the past, when I was writing my first book, I went and binged a bunch of different poetry books to see their style, to see this, to see that. And then I realized that I'm getting overwhelmed because I'm comparing myself to these people instead of allowing my authenticity to shine and to mold my path irrespective of what other people are doing, right? So create before you consume, and then you'll be able to keep that balance. There has to be that equilibrium.
That's great. Yeah. So create before you consume. That's a huge, huge nugget that you just dropped right there. So, in our generation, there's so much distraction, whether it be TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Netflix, whatever it is. So how can someone actually stay focused in a generation where there's so many distractions?
One thing is automating. When it comes to social media and stuff like that, I prefer to set up my posts in advance. So on Twitter, I'll use Twitter on my computer and I'll schedule a post to come out at a certain time so that I don't open the app and say, oh, I'm going into, and before you know it, you've scrolled for 20 minutes and you haven't even posted. Like, wait, what was I doing here in the first place? So that's a really big one. And also just understanding what you have to lose. Like, I think it's great to talk about all of our goals and how great they will be, but I feel like the energy of FOMO is more contagious than the energy of just excitement. So the same, you see people outside and you're like, oh shoot, I wish I was there because like fear of missing out. What would you be missing out on in your life that will hurt you if you don't do the things you need to do? Taking yourself lightly and you're not holding weight, it's easy to become like distracted and just go with the flow. But if you're like, okay, if I don't do this work today, 3 years from now, the goals I have for myself are not going to be accomplished. And that is going to suck because X. And I keep that top of mind. That's better than, 3 years from now, I'm going to be rich. No, if I don't do this today, 3 years from now, I'm not going to be able to live the life I want. And that's going to hurt. And then that's going to hurt my future. That FOMO of missing out on my future is enough to keep you motivated to not fall into everything because you have so much to lose. Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a great message that you just delivered here today and on this show. So, I know you really talk about relationships. So I listened to a little bit of your relationship stuff, and right now there's so much people out there talking about relationships, and there's a lot of toxic stuff out there. There's a lot of positive stuff out there, and there's people are very influenced by social media and what some of these speakers are saying. And, I really like some of the stuff you were saying in regards to relationship. And, I really want to tell, men, because I'm a man out there, is be careful who you're listening to and who you're taking your advice from. Because you could have a great relationship and then you hear something online and then you go and do what you heard online, then you just ruin your relationship. So, my question to you is, if someone is looking to find like the right partner for themselves, what are some steps that they can take? I'd say know what you want, like similar to what you just said, right? That there are people out here who have these good relationships and then they listen to somebody with a microphone that says, don't do this. And then they squander what they have. Like, I think it's important to realize that different strokes for different folks.
There you go.
Even when I'm giving relationship advice, I often I think all of the work I do primarily is rooted in my personal story. So I'm giving you the anecdotes that I've learned about myself that work for me. Take from it what you want and then discard the rest. So don't understand what truly makes you happy. Somebody might say, oh, the whole 50-50 talk. Oh, I can't be with somebody who pays. I'm not going 50-50 with a man. And you're sitting there saying, I'm okay with that. But everybody thinks that it's wrong on the internet. So should I now change my mind to fit the masses? But you know what you want. You know what satisfies you, what makes you happy. First of all, figure out those things. Like set your standard and set your bar. And then from that place of knowing and being the standard, go look for what matches you. But if you're going with the flow and you're a leaf being blown in the wind by every other competing opinion on the internet, you're going to end up in something and realize that you're not satisfied because the voice that dictated your directions didn't even belong to you.
Wow.
So figure what you want and go with that.
Great advice. Because a lot of times, like a lot of people that do speak on relationships, they may make it seem like their advice is for you, but like you're saying, that's from their experience. That's what they've gone through. So it may have worked for them, but it may not work for you.
Exactly.
If you agree with the 50-50, or you don't mind paying, what works for you. Don't listen to somebody and be like, oh, I'm doing that because they said they do that, or that is what works for them. And that's not who you are. You're not being authentic in that way. You won't find the right partner, the right person that should be attracted to you. So I like that advice you're giving. And, if you need some relationship advice, follow Toks. She has some great relationship advice for our people out there. Cause right now I know a lot of people want to get into relationships and they're looking for the right person, but there's so much information out there. So be mindful who you're listening to. So thank you, Toks. So we have a high school audience that views the show. And, if you were to speak to a group of high school graduating students, because we were all there at one point and we are graduating and we are all trying to figure out what the next steps are. And we are trying to figure out where we're going to go, if we're going to go to school, if we're going to work, so if you were to speak to a group of high school graduating students, what would you tell them to focus on in the next chapter of their life?
So I would tell them to focus on doing their best and making connections.
Yep.
And the interesting thing about doing your best is that doing your best doesn't mean the results are always going to be the best. It's more so an energy and a mind posture.
Yep.
There are times where you'll do your best, you'll study as hard as you can, you'll do that exam and you'll get a C. But at the end of the day, when you look back on the energy that you exerted to do it, did you actually put in your everything?
Right.
And if the answer is yes, then have peace and continue in that. Because I find that consistency is the hard part. Like being able to operate in excellence over time lead you to excellence, and also making connections is important because it's more so who you know than what you know, unfortunately. But if you can match who you know with what you know, then you're unstoppable.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
If you operate in that excellence, if you're always doing your best and you've made appropriate connections, those people will be able to vouch for you in rooms that you don't even know exist.
That's right.
So don't box in, don't be an island. Speak to people. If there's something that you need, if there's an opportunity you're looking forward to, if you're open to something, let people know. And always treat people with kindness because you don't know tomorrow. Like, I think one of the worst things you can do is size somebody up today. Like say, oh, this person, I'm doing better than them. So they're not even worth my time, because tomorrow has a very interesting way of flipping things on their head. People who you sized up some years ago can be in positions where the way you treat them can be a determining factor whether or not they put you onto something or not.
Exactly.
So treat everybody with kindness and dignity. Constantly give your best in everything you do. And over time, those are the things that speak to the legacy that you create and to the opportunity that will find you. Yeah,
that's great. That's great advice for our high school audience out there, who are kind of looking for that mentorship, so that's great. Apply these things that Tok just said to us. So I just want to reiterate, you said, do your best and make connections, treat people with kindness. And the last one you said was, can you repeat that for me? The last one that you said.
Oh, what was the last thing I said? I can't remember.
It's okay.
Like don't size people up. Like you don't know where tomorrow's going to be, right? Like don't look at someone and say, I'm better than them. They could be nothing, because life has a very interesting way of humbling people. Think that they're better than everybody.
And I like that, because today I might not be anywhere, but I might consistently work hard, and the next 2 to 3 years I could be in a position of power. You don't know who that person is beside you, where they're going to end up, especially if they're working hard, they're consistent, they're disciplined. So I really like that idea. So that to me is everything, because I treat everybody with respect, because I don't judge anyone, because I never know. Today you could be homeless. Next year you could be a millionaire. Your life can change as long as you're putting in the work. So I really like that advice that you're giving. Thank you so much, Toks. So, clearly you've had a bunch of experience, and, you've been on this journey, and you've evolved as a being, and, you're still developing. And, like I said earlier on the show, you have so much potential. I could just feel your energy, and it's great to just, you're always smiling. I could see it through the screen, and I could just feel it through the screen. So, you have a lot to offer people. And I really hope that, people that do view this show, they take, an opportunity to sign up for whatever services that you have available, especially if they're into personal development, mindset, and all those other things that you touch, because, it just, you have that, wisdom and that knowledge that can really help someone get to that next level in their life. So based on your life experiences, what are 3 things that you have learned on your journey that you think can help others?
The first one would be do it while your legs are shaking.
Okay.
I think lack of fear is a privilege that we don't always get, and opportunity respects the bold,
Wow.
So if you're waiting for your legs to stop shaking, if you're waiting for the butterflies to disappear before you do those things, there's no guarantee of that. So being able to push and do things while you're feeling uncomfortable really sets people apart, right? The doers versus the sayers.
Exactly.
Another thing that I'd say, ask for help. Like, that's a very big one. I am very shameless about asking for what I need, because I want to get to where I want to so badly that if somebody says, oh, she was begging, whatever, I was begging. That's fine. And when you gave me the opportunity, didn't I make you and I both look good? You're welcome.
Yeah.
You know that part, right? Because a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want someone to say they made me. I don't want somebody to do this. Like, I really minimize my ego, because where I'm going is worth every single sacrifice.
Of course.
Thus far. So I'm not going to now, of all the things blocking my way, I'm not going to be another roadblock in my way.
Exactly.
A third piece of advice. Oh my goodness. Be delusional.
Yep.
Yeah. Like,
I love that one. I've never heard that. I've never heard on any podcast. But that's a big one. I believe that.
You have to think, like, the energy that you're going to take, the amount of time that you're going to put into something that you're going to think is the greatest thing ever. You're going to drop it on the internet and there's going to be crickets. Like, there has to be a level of
delusion.
It's going to be worth it. There has to be that delusion, because
it's true.
How will you keep going? There are some tweets that I'm like, yo, this tweet is going to rock Elon Musk's internet. And then I'm like, oh, only 3 likes from the people who always like my stuff. Like, what bummer, right? But at the end of the day, when I ask myself, do I believe that this is impactful? If the answer is yes, you keep going, because sometimes the way we measure things isn't necessarily the right way to measure. Like, maybe I'm not completely viral. I haven't had a viral moment, but my consistency makes it so that people who want to work with me, they'll be like, what have you done? And then they go and find 100 videos or 100 podcast episodes. And they're like, okay, she has stuff, right? So to shift that metric of success and say success looks like impacting even one person and doing something that I feel compelled and purpose to do. And just being delusional and like putting it out there and trusting in faith that over time it's going to land where it's supposed to land, and nothing is it.
Yeah, that's huge. That's big. Be delusional. Do it while your legs are shaking, and ask for help. That's 3 huge golden nuggets that you just dropped here on the show. And, we're kind of wrapping up the show, and I'm a little disappointed, because I just want this to keep going, because I'm learning so much. I'm trying to write things down, but I'm also trying to listen. I'm just trying to learn, because I'm growing from just being here with you on this episode here. And I'm actually going to go back and re-listen to this probably 3 times to reprogram myself with a bunch of things that you said, because that's going to help me get to where I want to be, so thank you very much for all the information, all the value that you've brought here on the show today. And I really hope that once this episode is out and you have access to it, that you don't wait, you don't hesitate, you book your session with Toks, because she's really going to help you transform your life and really help you get to where you want to be. All right. So I want to conclude the show with a final question, Toks. So when you hear these words, what comes to mind? And you could say one word to it. You could say a sentence. You could say a paragraph. But I'm just going to say these words. I'll let you speak, and then I'll say the next word. Entrepreneurship.
Freedom to make my own decisions. Yeah.
Freedom to make your own decisions. Relationships.
Opportunities to make meaningful connections.
Opportunities to make meaningful connections. Mindset.
The foundation.
The foundation. Education.
Hmm. The path.
The path.
Yeah.
And generational wealth.
The motivation.
The motivation. I love
Yeah.
that. You heard it here today from Toks. You know, how can our audience reach you, Toks?
Yes, you can reach me on all social media platforms at Tokstalks. You can go on my website, which is tokstalks.com. If you'd like to book a strategy session with me, there's a link in my Instagram bio. So it's a 90-minute strategy and mindset session where we really talk about what you want, but also the roots. And then on top of that, it also comes with an additional 20-minute follow-up session that comes after the fact. So a month later, get to actually see if you're doing what you're doing and look at the nutrients and pivot and create another plan for you if the first one didn't work out for any reason. I have a poetry book, Through My Brown Eyes. There's a link to that on my website, as well as a 28-day mind shift journal. And that's also available on Amazon and also linked on my website.
Perfect. Tokstalks, right? That was it right there. Yes. Tokstalks. All right. Make sure you go and follow Tokstalks. Get on her YouTube stuff, book your session, get in there with her today. And if CP24, whatever networks are watching this, you're going to want Toks on your platform, on your show, because she's got a huge message that she's delivering. I see a bright future for you. I feel like in the next year or two, I'm going to be headed over to Indigo because I'm going to be purchasing one of your books because it's going to be on a bookshelf because you got so much incredible stuff to say. You know, your mindset's extremely strong. You're very locked in. I could tell you're disciplined. You have great energy, and I'm very excited to follow you on your journey. So again, thank you very much, Toks, for coming on the show, and I look forward to following you.
Thank you so much for having me. This was great.
Thank you. Thank you. First, for our audience out there, please remember, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button below, and I don't need to say it, but we found so much value from this episode here today, so make sure you go out there and you share with a friend. Again, Toks, I wish you nothing but the best, and thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.